Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network and another episode of Sibling Showdown. And of course, we are talking Bears and Washington Commanders. As you can tell, Washington fan behind. I got the Washington stuff behind me. I'm in my Washington gear. Steve, are you in your Washington gear? You're not in your Washington gear yet.
I'm not.
What's going on? But anyways, this is Sibling Showdown. So of course, I'm joined by my brother Steve. You can follow him at Steve O Speak. Steve, how are you doing? Are you ready for big Wash? I almost said Redskins, but are you ready for big Washington win tonight?
Yeah. No, I think it's should be at least a good game for a Thursday night game. I know the Bears have looked bad, terrible at times this year, but they can be fun. And this was a Thursday game last year that was closer than I think definitely Washington fans wanted. But I could see it being at least entertaining. So hopefully we at least get that. But I do think Washington will win. They are the home team, and their defense has played well, and Sam Howell has played well in every game but the Bills game. So
Exactly. Are you gonna have Washington gear on in like 6 hours? What's going on here?
Oh yeah, game time.
Okay. Just need to make sure. Okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna quickly ask Steve how he sees this game going, and then we're gonna go through what we basically have on fanspeak.com. And what we have on fanspeak.com is a showdown survey, and it goes through our favorite captains, our favorite, basically who we're playing the most, our favorite fades, contrarian plays, values. We're going to hit those really quick and favorite builds. And then we're actually going to build, not fully, but build a lineup, kind of a base lineup over on DraftKings. So again, check out our article on fanspeak.com. You can see everything we're talking about in written form there. And we, of course, have plenty of content every single week. We've got sports betting. Check out the sports betting show later at 3:00 today. And then, of course, we have our sports betting card that's updated for Thursday, Sunday, Monday games. That's on the sports betting tab. Plenty of articles covering underdog, covering daily fantasy, showdown. So be sure to check out everything on fanspeak.com. Okay, with that, Steve, I mean, yes, clearly you have two Washington homers here, diehard fans our whole entire life. But I think Washington's the better team. I think they win easily. I know I'm usually the more delusional Washington fans out of the two of us. But how do you see this game going today? Do you kind of see it going with the spread? Washington wins by a touchdown?
Yeah, I do. I think they could maybe push it to double digits, like 10 points. I don't think they totally blow the doors off Chicago. We've seen their defense get a little leaky. Arizona put up some points on them. Denver put up some points on them. Neither one of those are, world-beating offenses like they faced the past 2 weeks in Buffalo and Eagles. So, Washington's defense, while they have some playmakers, particularly after getting after the quarterback, and I think they can cause Justin Fields to make mistakes and get pressure, get those sacks. There are some issues on the back end still. DJ Moore can get loose. Cole Kmet, we know, can be a playmaker. Darnell Mooney, hasn't gotten near the opportunities that Moore has, but we know in his past he can be a deep threat and a big play guy. So those are the threats that Chicago has, and that's honestly what killed Washington a year ago. I mean, it wasn't these types of talents, but it was a couple of deep balls and Fields running it, and that is obviously in Fields' bag as well. So
sure.
Those kind of broken plays that could keep it close enough. But I think Washington, we know their running game is going to be strong. Sam Howell, again, playing really well. Chicago's secondary defense as a whole is not good, and their secondary is a complete mess. Basically who they started training camp with, what they projected as their starting secondary is just all wiped out at this point.
Right. I was basically all backups, right?
Yeah. It's not good when you're facing some talents like McLaurin and Dotson and Samuel.
Exactly. And so, Chicago ranks the worst in most pass defense categories, and then they're decimated as well. And I think it sets up great for all of the Washington offense. So with that said, are you going to have more Washington captains? Who are your favorite captains?
Yeah. So, from a captain standpoint, I do think Brian Robinson, just because we've seen his red zone usage. He should have had 2 touchdowns last week. He fumbled on the 1 yard line. Terry McLaurin recovered in the end zone. So this is multiple weeks. He could have easily had 2 touchdowns. So his and 100-yard bonus equity is high here. Sam Howell, definitely, he's been spreading the around a lot, but he can run also a little bit. So he could maybe run for one if he throws for a bunch. And that's how they're getting it. He's definitely in play. I'd say either of his top two receivers, McLaurin primarily has been getting the more deeper shots. Dotson's getting a similar target share, but just hasn't gotten the yardage and enough deep shots. But maybe that happens against the Chicago secondary. So that's how I'd rank the Washington side. On the Bears side, Fields has to be in play. I mean, we've just seen even bad throwing running quarterbacks can get there. I mean, Anthony Richardson completed 44% of his passes and was one of the top quarterbacks of the week last week. So,
but are you playing Fields in the captain?
Probably not often, but I will have at least one just for that reason alone.
Okay.
On the single game, he's not good. Just like Anthony Richardson is not a good passing quarterback, but if you run for a bunch, get a couple 2-point conversions, guess what? You have 30-some points.
Right. Okay. So any other Chicago captains you're considering?
And then it would be DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, because Cole Kmet could get 2 touchdowns like he did last week, and DJ Moore could get 100+ yards and a big touchdown with a bunch of catches like he's done. It's just those kind of range of outcomes where, the one downside with guys like McLaurin and Dotson is they maybe don't have the 100-yard equity just because Howell has spread it around, and maybe they don't need to throw the ball as much, where Chicago's much more condensed. I mean, Komet's probably not going to get 100 yards as a tight end. He's not Travis Kelce, but we've seen him get 6 to 8 targets, 6 catches, multiple touchdowns. This is how he had a couple of big spike weeks last year when Fields wasn't even throwing nearly as much. So, yeah, I mean, it's just in that range of outcomes in a single game. It's possible, but those would be the only ones. I mean, I think you can make a Washington defensive play. We've definitely seen some of these bad offenses, bad quarterbacks. I mean, again, look at the Monday night game, the Giants, that Seattle defense, what they did, 11 sacks, pick 6, multiple turnovers, only 3 points allowed. Could this Washington defense do that? Absolutely. I mean, they have 4 former first rounders on this defensive line against the Chicago offensive line that was not strong to begin with, already missing multiple people. I know they're getting Tevin Jenkins back. I'm not sure if he's playing tonight or not, but either way, I mean, Fields is just taking a ton of sacks. So,
okay. So let me summarize. So Washington captains would be, in order. Well, doesn't matter the order, but basically your favorite Washington captains are obviously Brian Robinson, probably first, and then Howell, McLaurin, Dotson. And then
that would be the order.
Maybe Washington defense if you wanted to get crazy. And then on the Chicago side, you would only consider Fields, DJ Moore, and Kmet. Does that kind of okay? So I'm with you. I'm playing less lineup, so I'm sticking with the Washington captains. And for me, it's Brian Robinson, Howell, and Dotson to save money. But I do think there could be lower ownership. I'd like to see some ownership updates on McLaurin and his ownership in the captain. I don't know if you've seen that any updates around the industry on that, like Dotson versus McLaurin. Have you seen anything on that as far as ownership in the captain?
I haven't. Not
okay. That would be something to pay attention to, because I do think that's interesting, because maybe McLaurin will come in lower owned in the captain potentially just because of the price, but I like Dotson in the captain to save a little money. Their target share is similar. Okay. So that's the captains for us. I think that's pretty much the flex plays for us. Correct. Yeah. I mean, you pretty much named all the flex plays, and then I'm not going down really low. I know on our survey, we talked about cheap plays under kickers. I really don't want to go there under kickers to me. I have interest in the Washington defense, Washington kicker. That's it. We talked about our flex plays, but any cheap plays that you would consider? I assume you're obviously considering Washington defense. I assume Washington kicker, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got that down low. Are you going lower than that for any value?
So what I will say is, and this is what makes the Bears tough, is they're extremely condensed. Khalil Herbert's really just had last week's game, and I just don't see that repeatable in this kind of game environment. And Rashawn Johnson, Donta Foreman's not even being active, and Rashawn Johnson is just not a thing. He's gotten 5 targets since week 1. just not being involved really at all. So you can't play their running backs essentially. Mooney kind of is a play, but that's about it. And
No, I'm talking like below the kickers.
No, I know. I'm just saying in general, any other flex plays. So
Oh, okay.
The Bears, the only other option is really their kicker,
Okay.
Santos.
Gotcha.
And on the Washington side, I do think there are other options above the flex plays or above the kickers for
Right.
flex.
Like Logan Thomas.
I think Logan Thomas and Curtis Samuel are in play.
Yep. Yep.
I think below the kicker, and I would probably actually, if I'm playing a kicker, I'd probably just prefer the Chicago kicker, just because Washington's just had some kicking issues this year. So
yeah, I
I'm
just
playing
don't know that if they get way behind, it could be one of those situations. That's what makes me nervous about the Chicago kicker.
Yeah. But anyways, I just think if I'm paying down, I'd rather honestly pay down and hope that an Antonio Gibson gets a touchdown, a De'Ami Brown gets a touchdown.
Yeah, the NC connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't see the field as much as you'd want, and it's they're probably better if Washington's like behind or a true high shootout game, and we're not really projecting that, but they will play some. They absolutely will.
Right.
And
we talked about the bad secondary,
Yeah, and maybe you get the right run out. And also, like with Gibson, he does get utilized in like say 2-minute drill. So if it's like end of the first half and Washington has the ball in 2 minute, he could be the one on the field, and maybe he picks up 4 catches on that drive, including a touchdown. So he could get 4 for 30 on that drive and a touchdown, and get literally all the points that you need from him.
Right.
On that one singular drive.
No, that's a great point, and he's cheap and will be lower
exactly
too.
Exactly.
So that shifts us to, you talked about the
cheap and one super cheap captain would be like Cole Turner.
Not captain, but
I'm sorry, flex play.
Yeah.
For Washington would be like Cole Turner at 800.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't know how many routes did he run last week? Because I know Logan Thomas ran about 71% of the routes, got all the targets. I don't think he got targeted last week. And I was wondering how many routes he ran, and because the first 2 games he did run routes with Logan Thomas. Last week, he did get a handful of targets. The first 2 weeks he did not. This past week with Logan Thomas back.
Yeah, he only played a couple snaps, and you could actually
it's a little surprising. Yeah.
You could even pivot to John Bates. He plays a little bit more because he's blocking. But just one of those 2 guys that, they will throw to the number 2 tight end in formations. They've shown to that. It's been a little tougher to predict, but again, that's what the thing with Showdown. These are $400 and $800 guys. They're going to be extremely low owned. If you get the right run out where they get, we've seen it before in showdowns where 1 catch for 5 yards and touchdown can be all you need from that type of play.
Yeah.
I remember last year, the Chargers had a fullback who the first 2 showdowns that they were on, like had night game showdowns, he got a touchdown, like 1, I think running, 1 receiving. And he was like in the optimal as like a 2 or in a $400 play.
Right.
Just simply because he got a singular touchdown, even though that was like his only touch of the game.
Right. Okay. So those are the value plays that you're considering. Contrarian, I don't know that we have a perfect, we still need to check around the industry on ownership updates. But we're assuming probably Logan Thomas. I know on the survey, we both had Logan Thomas as our more contrarian play. We're assuming he might get in that like lost mid-range, right? Any other?
Yeah.
So I know you're considering Logan Thomas as like a more contrarian play. Any other contrarian plays you're considering?
Yeah, I think Mooney's probably a contrarian play, just because. Same
thing with pricing.
Yeah, pricing and just it's a play off the higher used guys on Chicago.
Okay. So those would be your 2 lower owned. Now let's shift to fades. I know we are kind of in lockstep on this one too. We're both fading Herbert. I don't think the game script works. I think he had an awesome run out last week against a historically bad Denver defense. I don't think he's going to have that against the Washington front 7. I know Herbert's your biggest fade, correct?
Yeah, Herbert and honestly Roshan Johnson.
Okay.
Again, not sure how much
Okay.
he'll be owned, but there's so much preseason hype on him, even after week one when he got like 6, 7 targets. But I mean, he's been just awful since then, and I just don't see that changing this week.
Okay. So even in a negative game script, you
Oh
don't
yeah,
see it or
yeah.
see
I
him
mean,
getting
he
there.
just doesn't get targets. Again, 5 targets in the past 3 weeks.
How many did he get the week of the blowout against the Chiefs?
1 or 2.
Okay. So I think he got more carries that week, just of
Yeah.
garbage time carries, probably them just being like, please let this game be over.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that covers captains, flex plays, cheapy or value plays, fades, contrarian plays. I think that kind of covers it, except the build. And you and I are very similar, but I'm a little bit more aggressive, shocker, towards the Washington side. What's your favorite build structure? And then we'll go over to DraftKings and do a quick build.
For me, it's 4-2 Washington.
Okay. And if you'll note it on the survey, again, all content is free. Check out fanspeak.com survey. We have this all broken down in written form. And I am 5-1 Washington. I'm only running like 3 to 5 lineups, and they're all 5-1 Washington. I mean, I have delusional Washington fan. It's in my Twitter bio and it's written all over me. So why don't we build? We're only going to put 4 players in, but why don't we build a shell? Okay. Okay. So I'm bringing over DraftKings, and I'll let you pick the captain. Oh, by the way, I just have to say that Steve called it last week I believe on the show, definitely on the article. Again, anything we might miss on the show, you'll see in the article. Definitely 100% in the article, you said David Montgomery could come in owned and he could hit 2 to 3 touchdowns. Well, did he get 3 or 2? 2, right? 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns?
No, 3.
Yeah. And sure enough, David Montgomery, I forget what his ownership came in at, was the captain play you wanted. 3 touchdowns in the captain. Steve called it. Steve had a much more profitable last Thursday showdown than me. So maybe that's all to say. Just listen to Steve. No, I have some good takes too, but I was definitely, that was one that I was like, I'm a little nervous about him coming back from injury. I love David Montgomery. You look at my best ball portfolio, I love David Montgomery. I just didn't trust it coming back, from a week out, and I was wrong. So with that, since you had the David Montgomery call last week, I'll let you pick the captain.
Well, I'll go right back to the same mentality and go Brian Robinson.
There we go. I like it. Yeah. Well, hopefully no, they weren't home, but yeah, the favorite running back. Yep. Possibly getting 2 or 3 touchdowns. Yeah. Brian Robinson. I've been doing some builds without Fields. So I'm going to put Hal in, and I'll let you decide which Chicago player we put in this shell.
I'll go with Cole Kmet.
Okay. So you do Brian Robinson, Sam Howell, Cole Kmet. That's 6,800. Now, obviously, like if you did do a Fields, then you're going to have to get low with your next 2. And again, we talked about the different value options. If you wanted to then do like a different receiver, like a DJ Moore or something like that, then you save a little bit of money. But I'm not going to do another. I told you I'm doing more 5-1. Maybe I'll sprinkle a 4-2. I really like, Terry McLaurin's my favorite Washington player, but I really like Dotson in this matchup at $7,000 to kind of break out. He has a similar target share than McLaurin, and he just hasn't gotten there like McLaurin. He did get the touchdown last week, and he does have the most red zone targets for Washington. So with Brian Robinson, Sam Howell, Jahan Dotson, Cole Kmet, you have 6,700. Whether you want to do like Fields and then a cheapie, or kind of a more balanced approach, I think that's like a good shell. What are your thoughts on that? And then we can kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I think that is a good way to approach it. Like you said, it's a good show, and you can pivot a couple different ways. And I like it.
Okay. All right. Well, then I think we, did a kind of a good breakdown covering all. Check out our article on Fanspeak. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Steve?
Yeah, no, I think just keep in mind it's Showdown, and
Anything can happen.
things get crazy, and don't make the mistake that I did and have Luke Musgrave in almost every David Montgomery captain lineup like I did
So
last week.
that was a
So
stinger. Yeah.
yeah, that my week would have been a lot more profitable if I had a little bit more exposure to some of the other Green Bay pass catchers.
Well, it's hard when you get a guy with good value, and he and Reed were the values last week, so
Yeah.
that's tough. So and we can't predict injuries, unfortunately,
Of course.
and so yeah, that one just stung. And we love Luke Musgrave in best ball, so hopefully get well soon. Hopefully he's coming back in a week or two.
It sounds like he's back this week, but yeah.
Oh, really? Rarely do they come back the first week after concussion.
Yeah, I don't know if they care in Green Bay.
Okay.
Quay Walker came back in 1 week, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, their linebacker.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess Green Bay doesn't mind as much. All right.
No,
bring him back for my best ball bags. So
yeah. No, we'll see if he's like fully ready to actually play on Sunday, but he apparently cleared concussion protocol.
Oh, he has cleared protocol. Okay. Anyways, well, you heard it here. 5-1 Washington, 4-2 Washington. Washington win from the homers in the Washington gear already. Guys, enjoy the game. Good luck. Hit the like button on the way out. Thank you so much, and good luck tonight.